She laughed in front of 200 students, certain that a black janitor couldn't possibly correct her math. Her perfect smile had pure arrogance as she said, "Well, if you're so confident, why don't you solve it, Mr. Johnson?" The students chuckled. The cameras started rolling. But seconds later, when he picked up the chalk, the whole room went silent. If this already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now, because stories like this are still happening and the world needs to hear them. The lecture hall at Westridge University was a pride of campus. Polished floors, curved rows of seats, and a massive blackboard that stretched wall to wall. Standing at the front was Professor Ashley Whitmore, a 38-year-old white mathematician with perfect posture and a colder heart. She had a reputation for brilliance and cruelty. Students didn't attend her class to learn. They attended to survive. That morning, she was writing furiously across the board, chalk dust dancing under the golden lights. Her voice echoed through the room. "This equation has stumped researchers for years, but I'm sure you all think you can solve it, right?" Laughter followed. Ashley enjoyed the sound. It reminded her she was untouchable. In the corner, Marcus Tarek Johnson, the university janitor, quietly pushed his cleaning cart along the aisle. 44 years old, calm eyes, neatly pressed navy shirt with his name stitched on the chest. He wasn't supposed to be there during lectures, but the night crew had been reassigned to mornings. As he emptied a trash bin near the front row, his eyes paused on the board. He didn't mean to stare, but what he saw made him stop breathing. Ashley noticed him. "Something wrong, mister?" "Johnson?" she asked, smirking. Marcus hesitated, then said softly, "Ma'am, your sign in the third line's flipped. That's why the result keeps diverging." A ripple of laughter swept through the hall. Ashley's lips curled. "I beg your pardon?" "You've got a negative where a positive should be," he replied, his tone steady, respectful. "Maybe check the integration bounds, too." The class howled. Phones recorded. Ashley stepped forward, amused but offended. "Oh, really? Well, if you're such a genius, solve it. If you can get this right, I'll personally recommend you for a teaching job." The students gasped. Marcus set down the trash bag, picked up the chalk, and in under a minute began to rewrite the lines she'd worked on for months. Each stroke was confident, smooth, elegant. By the time he reached the final line, the answer appeared. Perfect. No one spoke. Ashley's eyes froze on the board, her hand trembling slightly. Her humiliation was complete. The echo of that silence followed Professor Ashley Whitmore all the way back to her office. Every footstep in the marble hallway felt heavier than usual, as if the laughter of 200 students still clung to her heels. She tried to convince herself it didn't matter. He was a janitor, after all, just a lucky guess, a coincidence. But deep inside, something in her chest twisted in a way she didn't like. Ashley's office was a temple of ego. Framed degrees from Harvard and MIT hung on the walls like battle trophies. Her desk gleamed with expensive polish, and even the whiteboard carried only her initials in the corner, AW. She set her designer bag down, sat in her leather chair, and stared at the equations that once made her feel like a god. Now, all she could see was his handwriting, simple, neat, confident, replacing hers in front of everyone. She replayed the scene in her head again and again. The way he corrected her without hesitation, the quiet respect in his tone, the way her students had gasped when the proof balanced perfectly. It wasn't arrogance. It was clarity. Her pride tried to fight back. "He must have memorized it somewhere," she muttered. "He doesn't even belong in this building." But her logical mind, the one that made her a brilliant mathematician, refused to let the lie rest. That evening, unable to resist, she reopened her notebook. She retraced every calculation Marcus had corrected, line by line, and there it was, her own sign error, the wrong bounds, a mistake so obvious that it mocked her as she stared at it. Ashley's hand shook. The man who cleaned her classroom had just seen to what the rest of academia had missed for months. Across campus, Marcus walked home slowly under the orange streetlights, pushed his old bike along the sidewalk. To anyone passing by, he was invisible, another working man heading home after a long day. But inside, his mind was alive, filled with numbers, symmetry, and peace. He didn't gloat. He didn't even tell anyone what happened. He simply whispered to himself, "Truth doesn't need applause." Meanwhile, Ashley sat frozen in her office. For the first time in her career, the silence of being wrong felt louder than applause. She tore out the page, crumpled it, then smoothed it again. Her pride wanted to burn it. Her curiosity wanted to frame it. When she finally switched off the lights, she caught a reflection in the glass door. A woman who'd spent years proving everyone else wrong, and tonight couldn't stand the thought that a black janitor had proven her wrong. The next morning, the lecture hall was still echoing with whispers from yesterday's humiliation. Students shared the clip across group chats with captions like "Professor outsmarted by janitor" and "Math karma hits live." Ashley scrolled past them, jaw clenched, pretending it didn't exist. But the truth gnawed at her like rust on metal. She couldn't erase the image of that man, his calm eyes, the confidence in every stroke of chalk. She told herself she was going to set the record straight. But deep down, she wanted something else. Answers. By the time she reached the math wing, she already knew where to find him. Marcus was there, mopping near the lecture hall, his uniform pressed, earbuds in, lost in quiet thought. "Mr. Johnson," she said sharply. He looked up, polite as ever. "Morning, Professor." Ashley folded her arms. "Yesterday, you corrected my equation. I'd like to know how you knew that." Marcus set the mop aside. "It was simple math, ma'am. The sign change reversed your bounds. Happens to the best." His tone wasn't smug. It was honest. That somehow made it worse. Ashley forced a laugh. "To the best? Are you implying we're equals, Mr. Johnson?" He shook his head. "No, ma'am. I'm implying mistakes don't check titles." The sentence hit her harder than she expected. She tried to reassert control. "And where exactly did you learn advanced calculus?" "YouTube." Marcus smiled faintly. "Some books, some night courses, and a lot of quiet hours." "Quiet hours," she repeated with sarcasm. "Between scrubbing floors?" "Yes, ma'am," he said simply. "You'd be surprised how much a man can learn when no one's watching." She stared at him, not just as a worker now, but as a puzzle. There was no arrogance in his tone, no resentment, just quiet confidence. "Fine," she said finally, motioning to the board. "Show me what you think I missed." Marcus hesitated. "With respect, Professor, you already know." Her pride flared. "I said show me." He stepped up to the board, wrote the first 2 lines, and explained, "You keep trying to prove it in the general case, but this problem works through induction, specific to general, not the other way around." His explanation flowed like a melody, logic, so clean it almost sounded poetic. Ashley followed, her eyes scanning every symbol, her heart racing. He wasn't guessing. He understood. Within minutes, the same problem that had haunted her for 3 months unfolded perfectly in front of her. Her throat tightened. How did you?" He placed the chalk back gently. "Sometimes the answer's been waiting. You just weren't looking low enough to see it." Ashley froze. She wanted to snap back, to remind him of who she was. But for once, she couldn't find the words. Marcus picked up his cart, gave a small nod, and said, "Have a good day, Professor." He left her standing in front of the board she used to own. The air felt heavier now, charged with something she couldn't name. Respect, fear, maybe envy. Her mind replayed his every word, specific to general. Quiet hours. Mistakes don't check titles. The phrases burned into her thoughts like equations she couldn't solve. By the time the door closed behind him, Ashley realized what frightened her most. Not that he corrected her, but that he'd done it with grace she'd never learned. If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if you want justice as much as I do, hit subscribe. Ashley sat in the faculty lounge, stirring her coffee until it turned cold. The chatter of other professors filled the air. Laughter, gossip, self-praise. But none of it reached her. Every word Marcus had said yesterday still echoed in her mind. Mistakes don't check titles. She tried to laugh it off, to hide her bruised pride under her usual superiority. But something was changing. The same arrogance that once made her feel powerful now made her feel small. That afternoon, she entered the lecture hall early and saw students whispering, eyes flicking toward her. Some were holding back smiles. Others just avoided her gaze altogether. The humiliation wasn't fading, it was spreading. Ashley began her lecture, her tone sharp, her words clipped. Halfway through, she froze mid-equation. The error stared back at her again, the same one Marcus had fixed. Her chalk snapped in half. The sound was loud enough to silence the room. She exhaled slowly and said, "Class dismissed." No one moved until she turned her back. Only then did they scatter, whispering again as they left. Later that day, in the empty hallway, she saw something unexpected. Marcus kneeling beside two freshmen, showing them a simpler way to balance an equation on a scrap of notebook paper. The students were listening intently, nodding, smiling. Ashley stood at the corner, unseen, and watched as they thanked him before running off. Marcus stayed behind, cleaning the chalk from his fingers. He didn't even notice her at first. When he did, he gave that calm nod again. "Evening, Professor." Her voice softened despite herself. "Why do you help them?" He shrugged lightly. "Because someone once helped me." She frowned. "You're not paid for that." He smiled. "Not everything worth doing comes with a paycheck." That line hit her harder than the laughter had. She walked away without replying, her heels echoing down the marble corridor. That night, in her apartment overlooking the city, Ashley opened her laptop to the proof she'd nearly abandoned months ago. It was perfect now because of him, but when she hovered over the title to type her name, she hesitated. Her conscience whispered the truth she didn't want to hear. "You didn't finish this alone." She closed the file, stared out at the skyline, and for the first time in her life, felt smaller than the work she was chasing. The following week, Ashley sat in her office staring at the submission form for the Annals of Mathematics. Her proof of the Whitmore convergence theorem was ready, airtight, elegant, revolutionary. All it needed was one click, one signature line with her name. But as her fingers hovered over the keyboard, a single thought kept haunting her. It wasn't all yours. She shook her head, pushing the guilt down. He was a janitor, not a mathematician. He wouldn't even care about authorship or prestige. Still, that didn't stop the unease. Her mind replayed his calm voice, the way he'd solved what she couldn't, and how he walked away without demanding credit or even thanks. Hours later, she finally submitted it. Name, Dr. Ashley Whitmore. Co-authors, none. The screen blinked once, then confirmed her submission. She should have felt victorious. Instead, she felt hollow. That afternoon, as she left her lecture, she passed through the main quad and froze. A small crowd of students sat on the steps, listening to a familiar voice. Marcus was there again, teaching a group of undergrads who had gathered with notebooks open. He was explaining advanced calculus with ease, using simple analogies that made their eyes light up with understanding. Ashley lingered in the shadows, her throat tightening. The same students who used to fear her were laughing, engaged, alive. All because of him. "Mr. Johnson, you should be teaching here," one girl said. Marcus smiled gently. "Teaching's not about titles. It's about giving someone a piece of light." Ashley turned away before anyone saw her. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus in that Navy uniform, shining brighter than anyone in a white coat authority ever could. 2 nights later, Karma walked into her world again, this time in the ugliest form. She was leaving the faculty building after dark when she heard shouting from the far corridor. 3 drunk fraternity boys were cornering someone near the maintenance closet. Their voices were loud, slurred, cruel. "Come on, genius janitor, solve this," one taunted, holding up a marker and scribbling random numbers on the wall. Another laughed. "He probably thinks the mop's his diploma." The third had his phone out, recording. Ashley's heart dropped when she saw who it was, Marcus. Standing still, his expression composed but tired. She didn't think. She stormed toward them, her heels striking like a metronome of anger. "Enough!" Her voice cracked like thunder. The boys froze. "This is harassment," she snapped. "And if you don't leave this second, I'll make sure your fathers get copies of that video you're recording." The smugness melted from their faces. They mumbled weak apologies and stumbled off, the phone camera lowering. Ashley turned to Marcus, breath sharp. "Are you all right?" He nodded slowly. "I'm fine. It's not the first time." "It should be the last," she said firmly. "You don't deserve that." His eyes softened. "Thank you for seeing me this time." She didn't respond. There were no words that could fix what she'd ignored for years. That night, she walked home in silence, her own privilege echoing like footsteps behind her. For the first time, she realized she had offended him, not as a professor, not as a savior, but as a human being. Days passed, and the guilt kept following Ashley like a shadow she couldn't shake. Each morning, she stood before her class pretending nothing had changed, but her voice no longer carried the same sharpness. Something inside her had cracked, and through that crack, light was beginning to seep in. She started noticing things she'd ignored before. The nervous hands of students who fear being called out, the hesitation in their eyes when they raise a question, the way silence filled the room not because they were learning, but because they were scared. That realization hit her harder than any academic critique ever could. For the first time in her career, she began her lecture differently. "Before we start," she said slowly, "if I've ever made any of you feel small for not knowing something, I'm sorry. I forgot that the purpose of teaching is to help you grow, not to make myself feel taller." The students looked stunned. Then, one by one, they began to nod. For the first time, there was no fear in their eyes, only relief. Over the next few weeks, Ashley worked differently. She invited questions. She smiled, awkwardly at first, but it was real. When a student stumbled through a complicated answer, she didn't tear them down. Instead, she said, "Good effort, but let's find an easier way to explain together." It was messy, it was uncomfortable, but it was human. Late one evening, Ashley opened her research file again. The proof was already under review, her name alone at the top. She stared at it, then whispered, "No, not anymore." She rewrote the cover page, a complete proof of the Whitmore convergence theorem by Dr. Ashley Whitmore and Marcus Tard Johnson. Her fingers trembled as she typed his name. Every instinct told her not to, that she'd lose respect, credibility, power. But her conscience was louder now. She clicked save and sent an email to the journal editor. "Please replace the original submission with this updated version. It includes a co-author whose contribution was essential." The next night, she waited in the lecture hall until Marcus arrived with his cleaning cart. When he saw her, he froze mid-step. "Professor, I needed to talk to you," she said, walking toward him. "About the proof." He listened silently as she explained, then looked down at the printed paper she handed him. His name next to hers. His expression shifted from surprise to gratitude, and then sadness. "I appreciate this," he said softly, "but I can't accept it." Ashley blinked. "What? Why not?" "Because if they print my name, people will ask questions I'm not ready to answer." He handed the paper back. "I didn't help for credit. I helped because the work mattered, and because you needed it." Her voice trembled. "That's not fair to you." "Life isn't fair," he replied gently, "but we can still be kind." He picked up his cart, gave her a quiet nod, and left the room. Ashley stood there in silence, the weight of his words anchoring her to the floor. Spring arrived on campus, and with it came a feeling Ashley hadn't known in years: peace. Her lectures were still challenging, her standards still high, but something about her tone had changed. The fear in her classroom was gone. In its place grew curiosity, laughter, and respect. The once dreaded Professor Whitmore was now known as a teacher who listened, the one who made even the most nervous student feel seen. And though she never admitted it out loud, she knew exactly who to thank for that change. Graduation week came fast. The auditorium buzzed with excitement as proud families filled the seats. Ashley was scheduled to give a closing address on academic integrity, but the speech she'd written weeks ago no longer felt right. When she stepped up to the microphone, she paused, scanning the crowd. Before I speak about integrity, she said slowly, I want to speak about humility. A few months ago, I was reminded that real intelligence has nothing to do with degrees or titles. It's about patience. It's about grace. And sometimes, she smiled faintly, it wears a janitor's uniform. The room went still. Then the applause began, slow, sincere, and thunderous. Down near the maintenance exit, Marcus stood quietly, not in his uniform today, but in a simple gray suit. He gave her a small nod, one of understanding, before slipping away through the side door. Later that afternoon, the department held a small private ceremony to honor staff who went above and beyond. Ashley had lobbied quietly for one name to be added to the list. When the dean announced Marcus Tarr Johnson as an unsung hero of this university, the applause was longer than for any professor. Marcus accepted the plaque humbly, saying only, I just like helping people understand things. That's all. After the ceremony, Ashley found him by the steps outside, sunlight spilling across a stone. Thank you, she said. For what? For reminding me what teaching and being human really means. He smiled. We're all teachers, Professor. Some just don't get the classroom. They shook hands, equals now, in every sense that mattered. If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it.